And here we are. We are live. Hello, everyone. Hi, Simon.
Hello, Debbie. Hi. Hello, everyone.
It's good. We're streaming to LinkedIn and to YouTube. So this is great. I'm seeing all the comments coming through, and it's really cool again to be streaming to LinkedIn and getting all the people from there. And I just pinged everyone in Discord as well. So if you got that like ping, sorry, but that's live. So a couple of people excited already. They heard new features and they're like going, "Oh my god, I want to know the new features." So we have a lot to live up to. But I think we have some cool things to show off, and I think it's we're going to be releasing some stuff soon, and then we're playing around with stuff as well, right? So the idea here is, Simon, that we're going to just showcase some stuff and get people's opinions. What do you think? And they might kind of say like, "Oh my god, that's the only thing I've ever really wanted," or they might say, "Not interested." Who knows? Great. Ping is good. That's great. So I'll keep pinging people. And if you don't want to be pinged, just mute the server.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we just started with releasing a new version of Playwright today. So we're in the process of going through the motions of cutting a new release. And I think we can show some of the things that are going to be released just in a couple of days. But we can also show some of the things that we're working on that might be released in the future, or just stuff that, I don't know, we find interesting and that might not ever make it into Playwright, but it's really good to get your feedback on what we work on.
Exactly. So put your comments in. I will be looking and going through them. And if they do get forgotten about, sometimes just scroll is too much. So, don't be afraid to just repost if I do ignore you. But do keep them coming in so we can hear your feedback on things. So what are you all excited about? What do you want? What do you want from Playwright? Is there something that you're waiting for today that's like, oh, this is going to be the killer feature that I've been waiting for? I see someone has put, let me say, waiting for AI. Okay, that's great.
Oh, somebody spotted that my background has the wrong color.
Yeah, they want to know where you can get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not an official thing. I just made it for myself. Like I got somebody to design it for me, and that's why it's the wrong colors. Those colors just fit better with the color scheme in my room. But I don't know, if you like it, then send me a message.
Cool. We've got a lot of AI in here, reporting AI, yes, waiting AI, full support for component testing, AI mobile testing. Oh my God, mobile again. Come on, people. What is the roadmap for AI in Playwright browser stack? AI, I love this. AI, AI, AI. These are the two letters that are rocking the world.
Wow. That's interesting. Everybody who's sent AI into chat, what would you like to see? What would you like us to build?
Waiting for the ability to launch browsers in non-incognito mode. I mean, that's...
I think that's already possible.
Coffee making.
Coffee making. Oh, that would be nice.
Playwright to make the coffee.
But there's definitely a couple of people in the team who like that.
Waiting for playwrights in built BDD framework, AI, mobile automation, stable component testing. This is a big one, Simon. Maybe you want to speak a little bit on that. That's up to you. Accessibility to generate POM classes from the recorded test using AI. I'm just throwing stuff at you, right? Just so then we can kind of because I think it's API debugging. That's interesting.
That's interesting. Well, we can definitely talk about that today.
CI/CD pipeline. No one else wants pizza. Really? Sorry. Component testing again, mobile app testing. Wanted to learn Playwright with JavaScript. Use Copilot. Easiness as Gemini. More intelligent reports using AI. Interesting. Impact and major change in the field of test automation. The other tools can't. Code gen. UI interface for AI testing would be nice. Page object by AI. This is cool. I love all the code gen with AI. So this is some good stuff coming in here.
Cool. Yeah. Should we just go with the flow and do AI first? It feels
go
like
on, do AI. They're here for the AI. Yeah. Let's do the AI. What have we got, Simon? What have we got for them?
Okay. So
we're not excited by it. We're not excited. We're not hyping anything up. This is just playing around. We don't have Like, we don't even know if this is like the be all and end all and going to solve all your problems. This is just something we've come up with to maybe help.
Right, yeah. So we looked a bit into what we can do to make the AI answers, let's say, a little less obviously dumb, right? You probably saw that sometimes when you ask Copilot something, it gives you amazing results. But then sometimes the answers are terribly wrong because it's missing context. It doesn't have the information about the site you're testing that you as a human have, right? Because Copilot doesn't have access to the same data that we have. And we're thinking how we can close that gap. And there's a couple of features that we have in the pipeline. And none of that is shipping in this release, but we're looking at shipping some of it, just some of it, in the next release. And the reason I'm saying some of it, like, we want to ship good features, so we're being a little conservative in what we ship, but we play around with a lot of stuff. Let me share my screen. I'll move this over to the different thingy, and then I'll present here. All right, there's my screen. Okay, you should be seeing a VS Code now. This is the Playwright repository. And I will just make that full screen, and I'll go into the terminal. And what I'll do is I'll go into our examples repository. That is just a small test file that we, the Playwright team, internally use to play around with Playwright. And let's open up the Playwright UI, Playwright test UI. It is, you've probably seen this is Playwright UI. If you haven't seen this, try it out with Playwright test-UI. It's a test suite that tests the to-do MVC application. And it runs a couple of tests across all the browsers.
Do you want to just zoom in a little bit on that, Simon, just in case anyone has never seen the UI mode, although they should have at this stage, but there you go.
So, yeah, let me make that a little smaller. Okay, so all these tests are green, as they should be, but let's think about what happens if a test fails. We'll start with a simple one. Let's just plant some failure into this test. This test creates a new to-do and then checks if the to-do was created successfully. We'll just put a glaringly wrong error in here. We'll say, we expect 1 to be 2, which is obviously wrong. 1 is never 2. And now when we run the test again, it will fail. And we have the error here in the error tab. And all of this is the old stuff, but the new bit is this copy as prompt button. And it's really interesting. When you click it, it says copied to clipboard. It doesn't do a lot, like the button doesn't do a lot, but now in your clipboard, you have a nice prompt you can pass to Copilot. Let me get ourselves a browser window here. So when we go to GitHub Copilot, I'll just open it in the browser here, because maybe some of you haven't seen this. There's a Copilot in the browser. When we send it the prompts that we have in the clipboard, this is what we get. So it says, my Playwright test failed. Explain why it failed. Be concise and respect Playwright best practices. Then it has the error. It has a small frame of what failed, of the place in the code where the exception was thrown. It has a page snapshot. Let's talk about that later. And then it might have some more data. And then Copilot will answer. It says the test failed because the assertion expect 1 to be 2 is incorrect. This assertion will always fail since 1 is not equal to 2. Nice, that makes sense. This is a hardcode assertion. It doesn't reflect the actual application state logic. And it tells us how to correct it. Somehow assert that we should count the to-do count here. Let's just try the same thing with an exception that is a little less glaringly wrong. You've put this into the browser, but you could actually just put this in the VS Code Copilot as well, right? Or ChatGPT or whatever AI that you're using, right? Yeah. I could put this into Copilot in VS Code. I could give it to my local LLM, like anything, right? I could even send it to my friend and ask them what's going wrong, and it wouldn't even be an LLM. Like, the interesting thing is that it gives you a text that contains as much context about the exception as possible. That's the idea.
Cool.
Let's enable something to make it a little better. We go into metadata, and then we say git commit generate. Is this actually how it's done? I'm not sure. This is an API that we've been changing yesterday. So maybe this actually doesn't work.
And I've been playing around with this a lot, right? So that error message that you got was very simple, but sometimes you get an error message that is really hard to figure out. And when you put it in and copy as prompt and put it in the AI, because it has that snapshot, it's looking at the HTML. It's literally telling you that button's not visible, for example, or the HTML is wrong. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, let's try a different exception. Instead of just a glaringly wrong one, we'll accept that there's a to-do of the title fish, or like catch fish. And that one is not there. So when we run the test again, it fails. And then we can have this copy as prompt button. We go to Copilot. We start a new conversation. Wait, how do you do that here on this button? And okay, the git diff thing didn't work, but I can explain it to you. So the page snapshot is interesting. This is an ARIA snapshot. It's a tree that looks how your page looks, but from the standpoint of an accessibility reader. We shipped this last version. It's called to-match ARIA snapshot. That's how you can assert using it. But we also parse it to LLMs now. And the nice thing about this snapshot is that it's a representation of the site that is very condensed and only content and structure, right? So there's a list of items here. There's a buy some cheese to do and feed the cat to do. There's no catch fish to do, and like a couple buttons. And then these keys here, those are ARIA roles. And the idea is that because we put the snapshot into the prompt, the LLM will start to generate really nice role-based locators that are stable and really like Playwright best practice. Yeah. Shivam, you mentioned the article. Yeah, it's very similar to the Fix with AI button. It's exactly the same thing, but just
inspired by, we could say, right?
By, yeah.
Exactly. And just another question, why not use it in VS Chat? And we just said in Visual Studio Code, we didn't put it in there. You decided to use this example, but you could totally put it anywhere you want, right? Just for people to see that it is possible to just stay in VS Code and not open up a browser. It's totally fine, and you'll get the same thing. Now, Marie's question is really nice. Is that preceding message customizable without manually tweaking? The my test failed, use best practices from the copy as prompt button. I love it.
That's a good question. No, not at the moment. You cannot tweak it right now. And there's a reason we don't make it customizable. The reason is that true customizability would require some sort of a standard, right? Playwright is not the only tool that generates AI prompts, and we don't want to come up with a format of specifying a template only for every other tool to have a different format. So we want to wait until something settles and some universally accepted standard arrives that we can pick for customization. And this use best practice thing. Some IDEs have these prompts.md file, for example. I think VS Code calls it prompts.md. Other IDEs call it differently, where you can specify your own customization message for the repository. And that might be the right place to put your own custom system prompt as well. So it's not quite obvious what is the right way for customizing, so we don't allow customizing yet.
I think it would be good as well for people to use it, and then you'll kind of get a better understanding of what it is that you want customized, and then like, put
Yeah,
it in as a feature request and say, this is the problem I'm having, and every time with this prompt, I have to manually tweak this because of this. And that would be good for us to learn, right?
Yeah, so right now, the way this prompt is created is very simple. I can actually show you the code. It's a file called prompts.ts. So the prompt always starts with my Playwright test fails and says, explain why, be concise, respect Playwright best practices. It shows the error message of what failed. Then if we have it, we take this YAML page snapshot, which is the ARIA snapshot with all the accessibility roles and stuff that helps LLM understand what the page looked like when the test failed. If we have it, we give in a git diff. So you can see, for example, if it failed on CI, you can see what was the specific changes that led to that failure. That will be helpful to AI. And we're also thinking about putting in the entire test file that failed, just to give it a little more context. Yeah.
So we demoed this in UI mode, Simon, but is this button going to be anywhere else?
Yeah, the button is also somewhere else. Let's execute tests and then look at the HTML report.
Oh, look, this is exactly my thinking. Would be nice to send it directly to VS Code from the UI using the button without the manual proceeds.
That's true. That would be really nice. But we also have something about that coming up. So stay tuned for that. All right. So now let's open up the HTML report. Oh, that opened up in the wrong tab. Let me move that over here. So this is the HTML report now, and there's the same button, copy as prompt. And now I can even take it and put it into my Copilot here in Edge. Right, so I can just paste it and it will do the same thing. Probably use it like a different AI model under the hood, but it also says it looks like your Playwright test failed due to a timeout while waiting for the locator. It's interesting that it has like a slightly different way of responding, right? Because it's just a different AI
it's all different models, isn't it?
Yeah. But this one says ensure that the locator is correctly identifying. Yeah, that's all right as well. Yeah. So the button also exists here. Let me show you a different thing. There's also a hidden feature. I'm not yet sure if...
Don't tell anyone.
So if you pass this flag experimental OpenAI API key and start a UI mode, and I think the same will work with your Anthropic API key. We will do the same thing. We go into UI mode, we make a test fail. And now, just scrolls up a little. It's the same button, but it has a different text. It doesn't say copy prompt anymore.
Zoom in a little bit so that people can see that.
Yeah,
sure. There we go. Fix.
Fix with AI. A different button now. Now let me press that. Now this nice.
Wow, look at that.
Please help with the error above. Take the page snapshot into account. And then you have ChatGPT right inside Playwright with like a nice icon and
nice.
Yeah, it's
now. Explain this, Simon, because this could. Are you chatting to Playwright if you're putting a question in there? Who are you chatting to?
I am chatting to just, I think, GPT-4o.
Okay.
Thanks for the explanation. Bad weather today. In it, we will say. Yeah, weather can be unpredictable. It's raining outside, right? I was trying to chat. Yeah, so it will just talk to ChatGPT under the hood or to the Anthropic Claude model. And this might look like a lot of magic, right? But it's essentially making a couple of calls to the API and then building this UI, this chat UI.
And this is basically just keeping you in the one context area so that you could, like, stay in here, take a look and understand what's going wrong with your test. And then you could open up the source code and jump to VS Code and then go fix that, right?
Right, yeah. And there's a similar thing that we have in the loop. Let's go back to VS Code. On the right, there's this Copilot thing. And just as we, if you have a failure in your test here, let's make a test fail. Enable the, no, it doesn't work for some reason. I think my local branch is broken. So if we run the test inside of VS Code, we would be able to tell Copilot, hey, Copilot, look at the page contents and tell me why the test failed. And then with this new Copilot agent thing that is in beta right now, the idea is that it would access the same page snapshots that we gave into the prompt. So you would be able to have exactly the same conversation here inside Copilot in VS Code. But probably a little better even because this has access to your IDE, which is always good.
Ati needs it now. What can we do to help him?
You need to wait a little. It's, yeah, I just want to say, I really don't think this will be the silver bullet that solves all your errors, and it won't be the silver bullet that replaces your jobs either. But it will be helpful. Hopefully it will help you understand some weird bugs a little better and just give you a first idea of what's going wrong when you're looking at something. And what we're doing now is making sure that Copilot and all these other models, they have the data they need to do the best work they can. So
what I've found is that when you're using it, sometimes it just because it knows more of the documentation that's in your head, right? So it's able to kind of point you in the right direction quicker than if you were to go and open the docs and kind of figure out something. So I think it will help a lot of people, especially people who are not so up to speed with the, everything that's in the docs and Playwright.
That's true, but conversely, another thing that it's really bad at today is using Playwright best practices. So things that I've seen a lot is that it generates code that is valid Playwright code, but where you can see that it uses, it waits for selectors to come to life where it doesn't need to. And sometimes it looks like it uses the function names from Playwright, but the patterns from Selenium or the patterns from Cypress. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because when it does the training, they look very similar. So it makes sense that it jumbles them up. So that's one area where it's still a little rough. And I think really understanding what the Playwright best practices are and how to properly use it is still key, because that is one area where Copilot, at least today, will shoot itself in the foot.
Simon, this is something you could probably speak to. Soon we will stay longer in the UI mode than in VS Code. Do you think that's true?
Not sure. I'm not sure. So those features that I showed in UI mode, we built them in UI mode because we can build them today. But all the things, this copy prompt or this fix with AI button that, as I said, I'm not sure if we'll ever release it, but we're thinking about it. All of that will work even better in VS Code, right? So if it doesn't work right now, I can't demo it for some reason, but VS Code already has a button called Fix Test Failure, where when a test fails, there's an error, you press on it, you press Fix Test Failure, and then Copilot opens right here exactly the same UI as we had in the Playwright UI, and it will do the same thing. And it will have access to your sources. It will be able to rerun the tests. It will be able to do so much more than we would ever be able to with the Playwright UI. So I think right now, some of the features come to UI first, to Playwright UI first, because that's what we control.
Have full control, yeah.
Right, yeah. But it will come to VS Code probably better.
Yes.
A little later.
And Jean-Francois says you can install the beta version with Next or the beta npm tag. That's actually in our documentation, how you can install the Canary release and play around with these features. But remember that things can break. So it's kind of like something if you want to play around with, read the documentation on the Canary release and give it a try and give us some feedback.
And I would say like things will break, right? It's like these
yeah,
beta
definitely.
versions, they are like we change them all the time, and we like now we're cutting a release, so we're tidying things up so that everything's great for this release, and you have a great release. But between that, those beta versions, like we change things all over the place. So don't expect them to be great.
So that is a great question. Is this released?
No,
not
but yet released. But stay tuned for one of the next ones.
Okay, cool. Anything else that you want to cover with AI, or have we finished our AI story for today? I think everyone's been very excited, so it's been very cool.
I think
a lot of great feedback.
The AI story for today, but before we go on to the next topic, let me just stop sharing my screen.
I'll just quickly, this question is quite nice. Do you have any plans to show the AI analyzed and summarized test reports to the native HTML reporter in future?
No.
There you go. But you could copy as prompt from the HTML report and analyze whatever when you want.
We don't have plans today, but maybe you could elaborate on what do you think would it do? Like, what is an AI summary? Could you explain?
This is a really good question, though. Is there any limitations to the chat lengths or API calls with GPT-5 within the Playwright UI? So when this is released, are there any limitations?
Let me think. We didn't put in any artificial limitations. So the limitation will be whatever is the limitation
of the actual free version of ChatGPT itself.
Right, yeah. And it's at the moment it's using GPT-4o, but it will probably make sense to make that configurable as well.
Cool.
Yeah. But before we move on to the next topic, some of you are clearly very excited about AI. What do you want to see?
Simon, everyone is.
Yeah. What should we build?
Yeah, what are you missing?
Thought about what are we missing?
I think there was a couple of suggestions. I'm not sure if this was something. It would be good if we could click on a failed section and see the correct code preview in there. It would save a lot of time. It's a nice suggestion there.
If we right-click on failed section and can see the correct code preview. Interesting. So what does that mean? That means that instead of when I say fix with AI, it would give me the fixed
I think
code?
this was in the report when we were showing the HTML report. So you have the failed section in there, and then you right-click and see the correct code preview.
Open that up again.
But Vandita, you can type something in if you want to further enhance that.
So there's the failed
because you don't have the full source in here, right? Maybe that's the thing.
Yeah, like we can definitely, we're already thinking about putting this the full source into this.
Cool.
Somebody's asking, can the snapshot see within iframes? No, not at the moment. If you need that, please open the feature request. It's definitely something that we could build if we wanted to. But we would need to learn about your use case for it, so we know how to properly build it.
And Vandita says, even while in debugging mode, if that makes sense, going back to that previous question.
I see. Yeah, okay. All right.
There's a lot of things we can do, right?
Yeah, bring all your ideas, just a feature request, so send them anywhere.
I love this self-healing locator feature.
Before we think about that, let's go to one about breaching our data, because we really should touch on that.
Okay, go for it.
So it means it might breach our data. No, only if you make it. If you, with the copy as prompt feature, all that happens is that your data, which is sensitive, goes into your clipboard. The moment you paste it into ChatGPT, there will be a breach of your data. Don't do that. But it's very similar to you
putting it in Google.
Sending it to Google or pasting from your VS Code into Copilot. Don't do that. When you have your Open API keys configured and you press this fix with AI button, if we ever release it, there will be a breach of your data. We will send your we will send your error. We will send the source code to ChatGPT. We will definitely make that clear, but you need to be careful there. Like it's so
yeah,
like the same limits apply to all AI stuff. Like if you don't want to send your source code there, don't use the feature.
Yeah, or just download some sort of local language models and use local only, and then you're staying in your computer.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. All right,
I like this. I hope this is just the beginning of an exciting journey with Playwright and AI. I wish to see more AI, i.e. in the recorder.
Yeah, AI in the recorder. We discussed this in the team. Wait, actually, let me stop sharing my screen because I don't think there's something interesting on the screen. And that means I can also look at the right monitor and steady in the eyes. Hello. AI in code gen. We were discussing that within the team. We think that the current code gen flow of you clicking around a site is faster and more precise than what AI can currently do. What you can do with AI at the moment, with all these LLMs, is that you can describe your flow in text, and you hope that AI gets it right. We believe that code gen, just clicking around, is faster than describing something in text and more precise, all without AI. So at the moment, we don't see that as a good use case. Maybe we're thinking about it wrong. If we are, send us a feature request with how you would use AI in CodeGen and how that would be better than what we currently have with CodeGen, with your specific requirements.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like, what are people exactly expecting? Because you have an idea, I have an idea, but what are people's ideas? And within the community, we get all these ideas together. Something will come up like that fix with AI that came from somebody else from the community, and that inspired us to create this, right? So everything we learn from everything that you guys do. So test it out. Put a feature request on GitHub and say, right, in CodeGen, this is what I'm doing in AI, and this is what I'd love CodeGen to do for me. How can we do that somehow? Yeah. And this is exactly correct. What Sachi Das says, CodeGen is very accurate, right? And AI is accurate sometimes, but CodeGen is always accurate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. GM says, would be nice to set up UI in advance in a kind of self-healing mode. Every time there's a fail locator, it fixes itself and restarts the test case until it works. That's also interesting. That doesn't match our understanding of testing. And restarting a test until it works either means you have a flaky test, and we don't believe that is the case that often, or you have a test that will just change itself to whatever the application and the test looks like. But then you don't need the test at all. You can just throw it away. So auto-healing tests are, in our perspective, self-defeating. They don't. If you have auto-healing tests, you can just not have tests. So I'm not sure if that's an area we'll look at.
I do like this suggestion. Is there any idea to provide live debug capability to UI mode? That's kind of incorporating the VS Code live debugging into UI, and it's turning UI into an actual IDE.
That's interesting.
Probably not really possible unless you put actually VS Code inside UI mode.
Yeah, I think that will be really hard. Why do you use UI mode for live debugging? What is missing from VS Code? Maybe we should bring what you like about UI mode to VS Code.
I like UI mode. Just because I like having one screen, UI mode in one screen, and my code is on another screen, and then I'm like pressing play and watching, and I can monitor things. So yeah.
Yeah. AI recorder. Could you use the AI to determine if a test has failed due to a simple selected change or due to a real bug? Yes, absolutely. So, for example, if you take the test failure and you take the, for example, the ARIA snapshot of the page and maybe the diff of what you changed in the application, just the code changes, then there's a good chance that AI will be able to tell if the failure is from a test that should be updated but wasn't updated, because it will know if there's an application change to go with it, or if it's a real bug. So
yeah, I think this is actually in debug mode. Currently, we have to rerun to go back and forward. I guess I don't use debug mode. I use UI mode, and I actually just go back and forward myself. So I guess it depends on how you're debugging your tests. But yeah, this one. Love UI mode, but would like to see breakpoints for debugging. But can you not just like jump up and down in the actual steps? Interesting though. There's a couple of people.
I can just tell you what I use for debugging. What I do is I put page.pause into the source code where I want to debug, and then I run in headed mode just from the terminal, and that opens up the page, and then I can debug whatever I want. So that's what I do. But yeah, does debugger work in UI mode? No, it doesn't. UI mode is when UI mode shows your source code, it literally just shows the source code. It has no way of running it. That is all in the CLI. Page.pause is a superpower. Yeah.
Test gen like code gen. So there's a good few.
What's the difference between test gen and code gen? Isn't code gen?
I think we're just going into naming things. There was another one. It should be AI mode instead of UI mode.
It's a teeny tiny AI feature, and really knows why it's not AI mode.
Are there any? This is an interesting question. Are there any changes to the trace viewer? Because UI mode has got this. Is this going to be in the trace viewer as well?
Yeah, it will also be in the trace viewer.
Cool. Yeah. So then you have access on CI on that trace when you download that, etc. So this is really cool.
Yeah. If you ever wondered actually why UI mode and trace viewer look so similar, the right part of UI mode is literally trace viewer in the code. It's the exact same code. Like it's the same thing.
And Butch is just jumping in there to tell everyone page.pause is a superpower. So go ahead and use that for your debugging. And there's loads of comments coming in. I'm trying to keep up. Oh, there's a lot of questions actually, Simon, without me putting them on the screen, about page object model and CodeGen, and can CodeGen do things for the page object model? And even this one, like there's been a lot of these kind of questions coming through. Does the Playwright team recommend to use the page object model design pattern to manage locators and actions on locators? And if no, then what the Playwright team recommends?
If you like using page object model, by all means use it. We haven't found a big use for it ourselves, and we think that with the way Playwright works, helper functions are probably all you need, and you don't need the full page object model. Yeah, I think there's also like a nice blog post about it somewhere out there.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on your use case, what you're using, how big your code base is, etc. But don't start with page object model would be my recommendation. If you feel you need it, you'll know and then use it. But like start off with just keeping things simple and then go from there. This is really cool. There's so much feedback. It's absolutely amazing. But there's a couple of questions here on API. Do you want to speak anything about API?
Let's talk about API. So API testing is close to my heart. Before working on Playwright, I worked on HTTP servers, and I was deep into the API stuff. And I really like the way API testing is so barebone. So it has a small. I like it. So I've been looking into it, and I noticed something. I'll share my screen again. And wait, that was the wrong screen. Sorry. This is the right one. You're seeing yourself now. Let me move that to the other screen. And let's open up UI mode again. So when provided you have like a normal browser test, UI mode looks like this, right? You have a test list on the left side, you have all the actions, and then the bulk of the screen is taken up by this big browser snapshot here, which is perfect if you're doing browser testing, really, really useful. But when you do API testing, it's just blank. It's just a wasted screen state. So I have a browser, an API test here. Now when I run it, you'll see something happen. Bam! Everything changed.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's not a browser on the right side anymore.
You might want to zoom in so we can see.
Yeah. I always need to
There we
zoom
go.
in. Okay. So let's just go back. This is the browser test. Browser on the right side, giant screen real estate. And then I go back, and it's no browser, but instead it's your request and response data. Just front and center. And it shows your status code and how long the request took. You can go through here, and we'll always show the last request that was made. So
is this Postman now, Simon? Is this Postman now?
It is visually inspired by Postman, but not
that was a question by GM, not me.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's not Postman. I think Postman does a lot more, right? Like Postman also serves your mini API service, and like has a lot of. I think it also manages all your test cases, and it's like in the browser. And like this is making Playwright a little more useful for API testing, making the UI better. Yeah. So it's not the only thing that changed here. So we have the browser on the right side is gone, and also this thing in the bottom doesn't have the locator tab anymore. And I moved out the network tab, which is counterintuitive, right? So here you have this big network tab, and it's full of like index.css and bundle.js calls, like all the calls that the browser does. And my thinking was, in a normal API test, the only requests you ever make are on the left side anyways, and there is no CSS calls. So I just removed the tab as well. And it means that most of the time you're fine just looking at these two tabs, and you can, yeah, and it's still very raw, right? Like this looks really, really bad. It's not beautiful. I'm just showing this because...
This is nice. API test seems more exciting now.
Nice. Yeah, a little brushing up can go a long way. Yeah.
And then GM just said it makes really sense to wait to show the browser. Why show the browser if there's no browser? So yeah.
Right, yeah. And funnily enough, I saw a LinkedIn post a couple of days ago where somebody built a very similar thing. They were using a Playwright API to replace what's in the browser to also show the request and response.
Could be this.
So yeah, that's exactly this. Yeah. Yeah. And funnily enough, like I think Sebastian published that a couple of days ago, and I was looking at this demo last Friday, and like it all coincided in time.
It's cool. Interesting question here. Possible to share the HAR file info?
Possible to show the HAR file info. Could you elaborate? What do you mean? What is the HAR file info here?
And I like this. Now, automation testers are officially API and Playwright champions together. They sure are. When is this, Simon? Is this like bang definitely being released in the next one, or is this something that they're going to have to wait for?
You're going to have to wait for this. This is like
killing us.
It's very speculative, as you see. It's also very raw. It's not styled.
Yeah, we know the HAR file is what the browser records for each request, but I don't think that has anything to do with the API You want to see the har file
So
there
in a browser
in the
test,
browser. Yeah.
the thing below, that is pretty much your har file. Yeah, that is very close. But in an API test, there is no such thing as a browser, right? So yeah. What might be interesting to you is how does it know what is an API test and what is not? Because that was not clear to me. I didn't want to have a toggle. I didn't want you to have to switch between browser and API tests with a toggle, like switch the UI. But what it does know is it waits for a test to run, and then it checks these before each hooks. And if it sets up a browser, it sets up a page, then we know it's a browser test. But if the before hooks pass, and we still haven't seen a browser, there was no browser set up, then we are pretty sure that it's an API test. So we show the API test user interface. That's heuristic. It sort of works in my tests.
This is a really interesting question from Sebastian. With this new feature of accessing the API results network tab, will it affect and make not work tools from the community like the PW API plugin, which operate in the web page area that we're replacing for the specific API testing? So
no, that will work perfectly. Like as I just said, if there's a page, then we don't see it as an API test, and we don't show the API test UI. So that will just continue to work.
Nice. I'm just trying to catch up with all the questions. A lot of feedback in here. So this is great.
What would be interesting for me to know is maybe in the chat, raise a hand or just say hi if you use Playwright to do API testing.
Or just put API.
Say API, yeah.
Yeah. And this is I'll put this up. I'm sorry, was asked a question by a team. Where is the documentation of this API testing in the Playwright UI?
Sure. In the Playwright docs, probably, right?
Exactly. Getting a lot of APIs coming in.
API testing. There's a document on it. Just search for call API testing.
And I think we don't document the UI mode, right? So it's basically, I think that's maybe we don't say in here that you can use API testing with UI mode.
Yeah, this UI mode thing is somewhere else. We probably didn't document it because it
wasn't beautiful.
It's really not beautiful. Yeah. So maybe we can change that here.
Yeah. A lot of API coming in. This is great.
Wow. Okay. What is missing? Like, what can we do? What do you want us to work for and for API testing?
Yeah, this is great. This is cool. Wow. We have only a couple of minutes left. So if people don't have time to put in here these questions, what's best, Simon? A feature request through GitHub for the API, or is there an actual feature one open that people can just continuously comment on?
I think there's one big issue where that is collecting a bunch of things, but for me, it would be better if you would just open separate feature requests, separate issues.
Okay, so if you have anything you want to speak directly to Simon about API testing, just open up a separate feature request in GitHub, and Simon will definitely take a look at that. Someone says a breakpoint on a given API request. I'm sure there's loads of stuff reporting, like Newman, API for setup and teardown. So there's a good few suggestions and things coming in here. But we don't want to lose those suggestions. So definitely feature requests would be great.
I think breakpoint on a given API request, that should, if I'm thinking about what you're thinking about, then you should be able to use the debugger with the VS Code extension. That should work.
And there's this feedback for us. The check the API documentation has gaps in the documentation, and would appreciate if the documentation is a bit more crisper than the current one. You are more than welcome to make a pull request to the documentation if you have a better way of explaining that, but definitely we'll take a look at it. But we're also always open to improvements in our documentation from the community. So don't be afraid to jump in and say, hey, it's better if we do this. Like, please go for it. Make the changes for us.
If the docs are bad, it's because we don't know how to make them better, and we need you to tell us how to do it.
Exactly. So if
remember,
just a few minutes left. We only have a few minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? Because we're just like, time is flying.
That's cool. I have a file where I wrote everything down. I mean, we could talk about IndexDB, but like people will see that in the release notes, right?
Yeah, so we'll just do a summary of that, which is basically if you're using storage state, and before you were doing the setup test using the storage state to reuse it across pages, etc. You now have the possibility if you're using IndexDB that wasn't available before, and that is like Firebase, for example, uses it, and a couple of others. So that's just going to work out of the box for anyone that's using IndexDB. So it is exciting if you're using IndexDB or Firebase, and if you're not, then it just works as normal. Sorry, people are asking this question all the time, so let's just throw it up. Mobile testing view. Simon, what do you want to talk about mobile?
I don't want to talk about it, and all I can say is I really don't think that we'll do this soon. Just see, like, Playwright is the go-to testing tool, but we have a focus on browsers right now. And if we decide to shift to mobile, we will do that. But we
need a bigger team to do that. We would need to be focusing only on that. So I know it's breaking people's hearts. I know that, and I'm going to jump back and break people's hearts maybe a little more, or maybe not, Simon, but we've had these questions in the past and I really don't want to ignore them. But the component testing, is there anything that you wanted to comment on that?
No, not at the moment. I would prefer.
Okay, so it stays as experimental. And Safari real browser, I don't know. I don't think you can control Safari.
No, that's rough to do, and I can explain.
Yeah, maybe you can explain that, and I have something else that I forgot that is untrue.
Yeah, and so the only platform where we can use the real browser is Chromium-based browsers, Chrome and Edge and Opera and all the other Chromium-based ones. And the reason for that is that Chrome is the only browser that we don't need to modify, so we can remote control it. For Firefox and for Safari, Playwright actually has its own versions of that, where we put in our own remote control layer, and that just makes it impossible to use Safari.
Okay, and we got nice, no worries on the mobile testing. Keep on making Playwright greater. So thanks for that. Appreciate your understanding. We did have, I think it was Vitaly who asked about, I can't find the question, but Mock Server Worker, when is it being released?
I don't know what he's referring to. Where is he asking that? Could you bring it up screen?
I'm trying to find it. There's so many questions that it's like, I'm trying to scroll.
You mean mock service worker? Or
mock service, yeah, oh, there we go. Server-side mocking. Sorry, there we go.
Server-side mocking. All right, yeah. So we'll see. It's a nice demo. I think we cut it down to a shape where we're fine releasing it, but we need to find the time to polish it up and make it ready for prime time. Yeah. If server-side mocking is interesting to you, to anybody in the chat, please let us know about it. There's an issue about it, about server-side mocking, where you can put a thumbs up. And the more thumbs up there are, the more we know that it's important to you. And we do the work that helps you, right? So we'll do stuff if you tell us that you need it. And if we can do it, right? Mobile testing is one way. You tell us that you need it, but it's really hard for us to do.
Cool. And then this is, I'm not sure, what if a test contains both API and browser-related actions? Will UI mode still show the API request and response?
It's not released, so it's not set in stone, but the design I have at the moment is that if there's both API and browser-related actions, it will still show the normal browser, right? So it will only show...
If it shows the browser, there is a browser. So if you have, for some reason, the API and the browser doing together, for whatever reason, it's going to show the browser.
that's the design. But again, this is not released yet. I'm just giving a sneak peek. If you have insights into this use case, if you think it should work a certain way, let me know. And like the more insights it can get, the better feature we can.
And this comes up again. I'm just going to say, can we expect any additional support for mobile automation? No. One day the message will be clear. I think we've pretty much covered all the things. I think someone just said, when is this all going to be released? So what's our schedule for release? What's coming in the next release and what's on hold? And
so the next release will be IndexDB and a small feature about emulating prefers contrast, and then a couple other things we'll probably release, but I'm not super sure, so I won't say it. And then we're looking at moving all these, like the copy prompt button and all these things in the next release. So like a month from now, or 1.5 months. We don't give out dates, right? But that timeline. And then anything else subject to never be released. Who knows, right? It's just demos might never be released, but if you need it, if it helps you, let us know, and we'll make sure that we release what helps you.
Exactly. And as always, follow the YouTube channel for the release videos. You can watch along and see when that happens, and update Playwright every time there is a new release, because you'll get the latest features, but you also get the new browsers. So we recommend that you always always update to the next release. I think that's I pretty much answered most of the questions in there. I hope I did. And those that I missed, I know there's a couple of things. Feature requests on GitHub. Seriously, people, they read, like the whole team, right? Simon, you live in GitHub issues.
Yeah, we do. And I'll just say something. If you open a feature request, put effort in. Please fill out all the things we ask for. And the most important thing for us is to understand your problem. Don't come to us with a solution that you think will solve your problem. Explain your problem to us, because knowing your problem will allow us to build a much better solution than if you came with a solution in mind. That's really important. So tell us all about your problem, and we love hearing
problems. We'll fix every problem in the world, Simon.
Not every problem in the world.
This has been great. Thank you, Simon, for giving us all the insights into all the cool things. It's very exciting to see all the people doing API testing and all the AI excitement. So this is really, really cool. And I hope when it does get released, you're going to be as excited as I am using it, because I think it is cool. And yeah, just keep watching out and keep watching. We'll post as soon as we have like those things that are live, and we'll keep you informed. Appreciate all the questions and everyone feature requests for anything we didn't get answered. And any last words, Simon?
Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye, everyone. Thank you.